Night Network presents Football Time.
Hey, and welcome to the Football Time Show. The NFL football season is in the books, and our man Achilles' reign is floating on the clouds of championship celebration. It was a fun game. It was an interesting game. It wasn't all that an exciting game until the last two series, but nonetheless, Rams come out the victor. What'd you make of the game? How are you feeling throughout that game?
I think it's a little off-putting to hear it from a Ram fan, but I gotta say, I know that the first half wasn't as exciting as the second half, the way they closed it out. But I think overall it was a really good Super Bowl. A lot of us expected to see some of the superstars that didn't play, or some of the key guys that didn't contribute too much in this postseason because of injury. But overall, I think it was a really good Super Bowl. I enjoyed it. Enjoyed the halftime show, all the good stuff, the commercials. It was all good.
Now, if Captain Joe had let him down there and kicked a game-tying field goal and then lost it overtime, would you be saying the exact same thing?
No, I think at that point I would have to rate everything other than the halftime show a fail.
All right, so let's get into this game. It started out, I guess, high scoring if we want to go. I think there were a couple more touchdowns than I thought early on, but I don't think either team really found any rhythm on offense pretty much throughout this game, and certainly during the second half. But both start out pretty conservative on that first possession. The Rams run 6 plays, net about 1 yard and punt the ball. Bengals get it quick 3 and out on that side. And then the Rams get the ball back. Go down the field, but it's basically that one, big play to Odell Beckham that really sort of sets up that touchdown. But at that point, 7-0. What'd you make of the Rams game plan coming out there?
Listen, there definitely was, I think, a little more scoring that we're used to seeing in a Super Bowl era. And, it was kind of crazy as I'm looking at the numbers and some of the keynotes. And Cooper Kupp and OBJ were one of the top wide receiver duos in a Super Bowl game as far as yardage is concerned. So I'm thinking to myself, did they really put up that many yards? I don't recall the game going that way.
Because Cooper Kupp put all his on the last drive.
Yeah, but I mean, even so, I went and I looked, and Cooper Kupp had 92 yards, which is, even though it's a lot, it's less than what we are used to getting from him.
He didn't hit that under over 107 on the prop bet.
I know, and now it makes sense as to why that line was set that way. But even OBJ, he was having a pretty good first half, so he got hurt, and he put up what was 50 yards or something like that. So it wasn't huge numbers, yet they've been one of the more productive wide receiver duos in Super Bowl history. So that tells you how low scoring most of these game affairs actually turn out to be. So for a Super Bowl, it was kind of leaning that way, but it seemed to really kind of rein in towards that second half.
Yeah, definitely so. And we mentioned the touchdown, then both teams go, another sort of series without doing a whole lot. And then I think the Bengals maybe sort of started to found something. They got the running game going just a little bit. I think we texted and we sort of saw the signs of that Rams defense where they sort of just sit. They aren't very aggressive, along that defensive line. They aren't very aggressive in the secondary. They just sort of bubble it. And at that point, I was actually starting to be like, I might be able to hit this Bengals, lose first half, win second half bet, because I was like, this is playing exactly into my, strategy of how I think this game is going to go, where the Rams get that lead and then just sort of we don't want to lose this lead. We don't want to lose this lead. Let's not get beat over the top. And, funny enough, they give up that field goal, which I think sort of settled the Bengals down. Another big play from Odell Beckham got the Rams a really good touchdown. I thought the Bengals strategy coming in was interesting because they were sitting in a ton of coverage over Cooper Kupp's way, and I guess they just thought they could handle it sort of one-on-one with Odell, but I was stunned by that sort of game plan out front, especially with sort of I don't want to say poor corners, but I would say not great corner play from the Cincinnati Bengals, and that strategy to go one-on-one with Beckham I thought was interesting early on.
Yeah, and you saw the way that first half played out because of it. We weren't really hearing a lot of Cooper Kupp, and basically Odell Beckham, who had a couple of plays, really. I think he had 2 catches total for the game with 3 targets, I believe. That one drop obviously being when he got hurt. But you saw the way it was going. They were covering Cooper Kupp. All the attention was on his side. So Odell was getting open for some big plays. And even early on, they were kind of catching Henderson and some of the running backs getting at little screens and things like that, and little wheel routes where they hit Henderson. And I think a lot of it was kind of playing out that way. And it almost felt like it doesn't really matter what the Bengals are trying to take away. This Rams team just kind of has weapons on either side, and they're going to be able to move the ball. It felt like for at least, most of that first half, it felt like a domination was looming. Just the way that the Rams were bending but not breaking on defense, and the way that the offense was being efficient enough to actually get down the field. But, we know what happened with Odell, and obviously we're probably going to get into that in a little bit. But that's how it felt as far as the way they were trying to play that first half defensively.
Yeah. Then we get the big swing off the Rams touchdown, go up 13-3. And then Chase hits a couple big plays. I thought that's where I really was getting a little nervous for this Rams defense, because they were just sitting in that bubble. Ramsey was a little over aggressive on 1 or 2 of those, trying to, I think end it with like a pick there at 13-3. And, Chase made a couple plays. They were running the ball well, which I think was probably my bigger concern, looking at the Rams side of thing, because Mixon was hitting them in that hole as they were doing that sort of soft defensive line thing, which was allowing Aaron Donald to be blocked by 2 or 3 guys. But then the sort of big combo play happens where Odell gets hurt, twists his knee, goes out, and I think that sort of just – I think that sort of shut down this Rams offense there, because once that happened, it didn't even matter. You could put the whole team on Cooper Kupp, and then basically it's been Swarniak and Van Jefferson out there who I don't think are capable really of aggressively beating man-to-man coverage versus, corners in the NFL. And then, of course, we had the, Matthew Stafford, I think our favorite interception, the rollout, have no play anywhere, signal the deep receiver to go long, and then he, of course, underthrows it by 5 yards. I don't know how many times we've seen that this year, but at that point, you got to be going, oh, crap, this is going to play out exactly how it sort of seemed. But how big was that Odell injury? And at that point of the interception, where was your sort of head at in that game?
Of course. Realistically speaking here, when I was looking at that game, I'd say that about, into the second quarter, about 3/4 into the second quarter, I felt like the Rams were dominating that game, as I said earlier. Yeah. And I felt like they could just do no wrong. If you were going to force all the attention on Cooper Kupp, they were just hitting Odell Beckham for big plays, or Dan Henderson coming out of the backfield. And even Hopkins had a couple of plays there too, where he made a couple of plays. But then Odell got hurt, and I felt like, not to say that, injuries that were going to really amp up a team, but it really kind of did. This Bengals team really came alive. It's almost like they felt like, you know what, we can't stop them now. We've stopped Cooper Kupp, and now with Odell out, we've got a shot here. And it almost felt deflated. It felt like the Rams really lost that momentum. And as you mentioned, that interception, obviously, you never want to see an interception, but realistically speaking, I looked at that as basically a punt. They were in a situation where, you try to make a play, it works out. And if you don't, you're going to end up punting from where you're at anyway. So might as well just heave it down deep, and worst case scenario, you get a touchback. So I don't fault too much for that play. Like, yeah, it was underthrown. But as you mentioned, when OBJ went down, we got Van Jefferson, and, we had a couple other wide receivers there that they're pretty good role players. They're pretty good at, filling in and kind of keeping a little bit of depth, but they're still in their developmental process. They're still not quite ready for a spotlight situation like that. They both have some really good attributes about their game, but they're not ready for that moment. They're definitely not an OBJ. They're not a Robert Woods. So it really hurt us, and it put us behind the 8 ball. So even though we still had the lead, I got to admit, even I started to worry a little bit.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting segment, and then what led into the second half. That's when I sort of started to really, really believe that the Bengals could win this Super Bowl. I was stunned at. I'm curious on your thoughts on this one. You know, Akers wasn't doing much. The whole running game wasn't doing a ton. The Bengals, I think, get a lot of credit for really pounding that run. But I shouldn't say stunned at how much they used him, because they only ended up giving him 4 carries. But, you know, Henderson, who's basically, I don't know, been gone since about week 15, maybe even before that. I'm trying to, think back to the regular season when he's, started to have some injury problems. I was stunned that they went more Henderson second back than Sony Michel. I don't know, especially since I thought this team started to find a little bit better rhythm when Sony Michel got going there. That I think middle tier, 12, 13, 14, 15 weeks, and I was just shocked that they gave Henderson as many carries as he did, being off for as long as he had been, injury. And then you got that 2-week window. Both you and I really like Henderson, but I was shocked they put him in sort of that kind of high leverage situation, having, basically not played for probably, 2 months now.
Yeah, well, listen, I think a lot of it had to do with the offensive game plan coming into this game. As I mentioned in our Super Bowl preview show, even though Cincinnati kind of got gouged a little bit by Kansas City in the previous round, they really haven't been, very giving in terms of rushing yards towards the opposing offenses. They've done a pretty good job at containing teams. I believe they were one of the top teams coming into the playoffs as far as rush defense was concerned. So I'm pretty sure the Rams coaching staff was aware that we're going to have to hit these guys different ways, but also trying to remain balanced. And Henderson adds a different dynamic. Yeah, Sony Michel's more of a downhill kind of grind out every yard type of running back, whereas Henderson's a little more elusive. He can come out of the backfield and catch passes, which is another thing that he did in this game. And it was also key. There was one particular little kind of like a wheel route that he ran to the left side, which got him a first down on 3rd and long, and I think that eventually led to some points. So I think it was because of his skill set that and what the Cincinnati defense brought to the rushing attack and defense that really kind of made that decision possible.
Yeah, I don't think I was stunned, having him in for pass plays, but I was really shocked they ended up giving him more carries because, Sony Michel has the hands of stone, and Akers hasn't really shown that part of his game since he's returned. I don't know if they were just nervous about giving Sony Michel carries and him getting stuffed, but I just thought it was interesting that they went more Henderson. They totally basically abandoned the run in the second half, which I half understand. It was putting them in 2nd, 3rd and long, which is when you got the said Matthew Stafford picks. They were better off doing little dump downs and stuff in that second half, but at that point, after that interception, now granted, it helped that the non-active corner, shut up, Vernon Orgraves, decides to run on the field and celebrate and, sort of tease off any, go down and try to get a game-tying field goal, which I was perfectly happy with because I had a lot of Rams first half and a lot of, first and second quarter under bets going, but nonetheless, game goes to halftime. At halftime, 13-10. And I think I sent you the text. At that point, I was like, this is going the Bengals' way. This is exactly what they want, where the Rams essentially dominate 3/4 of that first half, and they're basically up 3 points. Going into half, were you confident that they could come out and play, or at that point was it like our defense is doing the bend but don't break, our offense is now down to basically just Cooper Kupp because we aren't running the ball? Where is the thought game plan wise you're going into halftime at 13-10?
Listen, obviously I had a little bit of Tampa Bay and I had a little bit of San Francisco still lingering in the back of my mind when I was looking at the way this game was going. And I'm like, okay, listen, in that Tampa Bay game, we were up, we were dominating that first half, and they came back that second half, and obviously we were able to close it out. That San Francisco game, they took a lead, and we had to be the ones coming back and fighting back and clawing our way into that game. So I'm sitting here thinking, okay, we're up 3 points. Our offense is pretty much now going to be completely focused on Cooper Kupp because, as you mentioned, the rushing attack was having very little success. Cam Akers ended up with 13 rushes for 21 yards, which is just a 1.6 average. And yet, as I mentioned in our Super Bowl preview show, they have to remain balanced. They have to be able to run the ball. Even if they don't get much, they have to leave that element of, maybe they might run the ball on the defense's mind. And it worked out because, like I said, coming into the second half, I really had a lot of nerves. I thought that this is Joe Burrow's moment to actually come out and cement himself as one of the top young quarterbacks in the AFC and the NFL. I was just really nervous. I was confident in our defense. I thought our defense, which has shown to really wake up in that second half of most games in this playoff run, I thought they'd be able to kind of keep us in it. The question was, will our offense have enough weapons and enough time and enough firepower to get us down the field to, maintain an offensive identity in this game?
Yeah, interesting going into halftime. I must admit, at that point, I thought I was going to be a rich man off this Super Bowl because I was like, I've read this game so perfectly right. Rams are the better team. Couldn't pull away in that first half because everybody was a little too, gun shy to really, really pull the trigger and be aggressive. We're going 13-10. And then, probably the most telling sequence of the whole game here. Bengals get the ball, hit that huge big play with T. Higgins. Right off the bat, Bengals are up. Rams get the ball, interception by Stafford, and I think this is actually the biggest turning point of this game here. If the Bengals get a touchdown there, I think this one's wrapped up, game over, because basically they can just sit on Cooper Kupp that whole game, and the Rams have to plod the ball down the field. But I don't know who decided to make the change. I don't know if it was Raheem Morris. I don't know if it was Sean McVay. But they finally decided to sort of make a shift along that defensive line. They started overloading the side where they had more trouble trying to, double Donald. They were able to finally start really getting to Joe Burrow and start making plays. And you look at that, you look at this drive chart. After that interception, the Bengals ran 8 plays, 11 yards, 3 plays, -3 yards, punt. 3 plays, 5 yards, punt. 5 plays, -2 yards, punt. 7 plays, 34 yards on downs. It was shut down city after they made that line adjustment, and I think that just changed the game. On that field goal, off the interception, not letting them get that touchdown, because I think they go up, 24-13. That's getting into danger territory in a Super Bowl like this.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was, I got to admit, coming out of that second half, first play of the game, Joe Burrow to T. Higgins, 75-yard touchdown pass. I'm sitting there like, oh my God, this is exactly what we needed to avoid, a fast start by this team who's known to make big plays. And not just that, they're known for having to come back on teams. So it almost smelled like, oh my gosh, are we going to have another one of those moments? And then, of course, I'm like, all right, settle down. Let's run our offense. Let's just try and get 3 points on the board. Let's try to get close. Try to get something. Maintain, like I said, an offensive, presence in this game. And interception. Yeah. I was sitting there like, oh my gosh, like this is literally not going the way any of us wanted. Ram fans, obviously, not the way we really wanted to start the second half. So now not only are we down, but now our defense has to make big plays. They really got to keep us in this game because the offense just, like you said, it was sputtering at that moment. Defense comes out, does their job, holds them to a field goal, which is huge. As you mentioned, they get a touchdown that moment. I think that our chances of trying to come back here are slim to none at that point because, as I mentioned earlier, momentum was already gone from the end of that first half, coming to that third half. And then third quarter starts off, 75-yard touchdown, interception on the following drive. I'm talking about momentum is completely on the Bengals side. I'm sure that everybody who had money on the Bengals is sitting there smiling, thinking this is it. They're going to win the Super Bowl. But that defense, man, they say defense wins championships, and this is why they say that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say enough about the shift in defensive styles, and I don't know if it was Raheem Morris, I don't know if it was Sean McVay. It might have been the guys along the defensive line who were like, dude, we just got to overload and get after this guy because they aren't doing anything. And the other thing, now I don't know if this was totally Bengals or this was totally Rams, but I think what really, they weren't able to run the ball. Now they stopped running the ball too, so part of that's on the Bengals, but I think freeing up Donald so he wasn't doubled and tripled so much really helped them shut down that, run game, which I think was actually the Bengals' sort of best offensive weapon there. Mixon was gashing them for 5, 6, 7, 8-yard runs there and keeping them in, third and shorts where they could just, drop down, passes to Higgins, passes to Boyd, passes to Chase, and not really have to, drop Joe Burrow back where he doesn't have time and get sacked. And I thought that was just as key as getting pressure on Burrow, because if he has to look deep, that line's not going to hold up no matter what. But he doesn't have to look deep if that run game is gaining 5, 6, 7 yards, a clip there.
Yeah, listen, Jamar Chase was obviously a big part of this offense. His numbers don't really speak to the type of game he had, but, he was a big part of the offense. But as I thought in the preview show, I thought T. Higgins was going to be the benefactor of this particular matchup of this defense versus this offense, and it kind of turned out that way. You mentioned Joe Mixon was running the ball pretty well. He ended up having 15 carries for 72 yards, 4.8 average. He actually ended up even throwing a touchdown pass to T. Higgins. He was effective, and they really got away from it that second half. I don't know if I don't know what the game plan was coming into that second half. I don't know if they really wanted to.
I should say they got away with it until the most important third down of the whole freaking game. So,
listen, it was working for them to the point, but I really think that this Bengals team came out at that second half, especially after that one long play and the turnover, and they probably said to themselves, you know what? We got him down. Let's finish this. Let's give him the blow kill. Sorry, and they really wanted to end the game early, and it just didn't work out for them, unfortunately, because the Rams came out with a different game plan, different mentality for that second half than they did the first half. So they were able to really take advantage of key situations. And as you mentioned, they were having success running the ball. They were having success with their short passing attack. And it almost seemed like the Rams defense was like, all right, you know what? We're going to put you in situations where you have to try and, get a long playoff, something where you're going to need a little extra time. And that's what we're going to take advantage of. That extra time you need, we're going to get to you.
Yeah. Another key point in this game, right after that Bengals field goal, it's 2013. Defense did a great job of keeping this, one-score game. But I think the other key point was this Rams, it wasn't pretty, but they sort of found a way to manufacture themselves further enough down the field to where they could kick a field goal, which made it 2016. That keeps that game in range because after this, we basically have nothing to talk about until the last possession of the game there.
Yeah, listen, it was really important. And some people might have thought like, hey, why don't you attempt to go for it in the situation? You're down this many points. I'm like, it's Sean McVay, credit to Sean McVay, because we saw it throughout this playoff run. It seemed in a lot of situations, a lot of instances that he felt like I have to get there no matter what. And because of it, he was making poor coaching decisions. And that could have very well been a situation where he's like, you know what, we have to go for it here. This is our chance. We're driving a little bit. Let's get this momentum going. And he could have gone for it instead of kicking that field goal, which would have been, obviously huge for the Bengals if they would have stopped them, or huge for the Rams. But either way, it worked out. And he showed a little bit of experience in those situations by just kind of maintaining his poise and say, you know what, let's kick three. Our defense is playing really good. Let's try and stop them again.
Yeah, I didn't question anything other than maybe that wide receiver reverse pass on 3rd and 1. I got a little jumpy at that as we're trying to throw passes to Matthew Stafford on 3rd and 1. But
was it the Philly special? Is that what, what they call it?
It was. But there's
nothing special about that.
Yeah, there was nothing special about that one. Granted,
although it's hard to cut you off, but although if anyone took that bet that I kind of told people to take, the how many players will attempt a passing attempt in this game, the 2.5. It hit.
Yes, it did. They had 4. Technically, Hecker, after screwing up the botched extra point, I guess we didn't really go over that. But
then they might have had 5 then, because Mixon
we don't
also
count that because it's an extra point because it's not an actual play. But technically, 5 people threw passes in this game. So I mentioned the big field goal, and then basically nothing happened from this point until. I don't know, about 3 minutes left into the game. Both teams' offenses were just anemic. I'd say Bengals totally stopped trying to run the ball. Joe Burrow was basically getting harassed every time down the field. The Rams offense just really went into the tank. We'll get into, Cooper Kupp, but I mean, they weren't even targeting in those 6 series, and they kept, trying to force balls into Van Jefferson and Swarniak. And, I get it because he was being double covered. But, I was at that point going, you're going to go down because you want to try to get the ball because Swarniak has a 1-on-1 matchup. At that point in the game, I'm like, we go down with Cooper Kupp trying to catch the ball, or we just go down. It was really interesting on both sides. I thought both sort of offensive play callers lost a lot of rhythm there. A lot of that was the defense, but I thought they both really sort of got conservative and were scared they were going to lose the game, then win the game right after that field goal, and it became 2016.
Yeah, I mean, listen, as far as the Rams are concerned, I think that they were trying to utilize a version of the original game plan they came in with, which is, focus on Cooper Kupp, and we're going to have our number 2 beat you. The unfortunate situation is that you lost OBJ in that first half. So now your number 2 is either Van Jefferson, who's, struggling kind of, to really be aggressive. And like I said, these younger guys, they played a role in this game. They played a role in the playoffs, in the regular season, but they're still in their developmental stage. They're still not quite ready to be the 1 or the 2, and we saw it. That's the reason why the offense was having such a hard time, because these guys were dropping balls. I mean, I think Van Jefferson had 5 or 6 targets, and he caught 2-3 balls. I mean, so, they were looking towards these guys who had the favorable matchups. So unfortunately, it was more even than it was favorable because of the talent drop-off when you lost OBJ.
Yeah. All right, so let's get to the last drive here. Rams get the ball. Well, second to last drive, we'll go into the Bengals because I think it's sort of a window into really just a football game dynamics here. Rams get the ball and basically 3 okay plays, it becomes 4th and 1, and I thought this was probably the truest, play call Sean McVay had made. He finally stopped, just let's get it to Van Jefferson, let's give it to Swarniak. He was like, we're going down and we're dying with Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp has basically carried us here. They run that running back sweep, which I've loved that play with them, going back to, when McVay first got there and they had the West Virginia guy running it. They haven't really done it a ton the last couple years, basically since Cooks left, because they don't really have that speed guy. But they pulled that out of the bag with Kupp getting that 4th and 1, and then basically they just forced the ball into Kupp every single time. I can't say enough. He made every catch on that play. Some of them really, really difficult catches in, 2 or 3 people hovering around him. Unbelievable, really drive by Cooper Kupp on that series. They finally just sort of said, screw the analytics here. Let's see if our best player can win us this game. And he won them that game.
Yeah, listen, Cooper Kupp, obviously, the season he's had is completely amazing. I mean, everything he's done, when people know exactly what's coming, has just been completely mind blowing. Didn't expect a season like this from him, but obviously he works really hard at his craft, and the results show, how hard he actually works. But yeah, they basically leaned on him. They start off with that jet sweep, and in the fourth, I believe it was 4th and 1 from their own 30. So very gutsy call to go for it, especially when there was still, I believe, like 5 or 6 minutes left in the game.
Oh, that game's over if he doesn't get that, pretty much.
Yeah, granted, they still have all their timeouts and everything, but, it's one of those situations where, like, you're going to give up points that far deep into your own field. So really gutsy call. It works out, and he gets the first down. And then after that, as you mentioned, Cooper Kupp. And, just all the attention was on him, and he was just making plays happen. His footwork is, is definitely up there with some of the best that play the game. His route running is super crisp, and, he's definitely fun to watch. But yeah, I just don't understand, as good as the Cincinnati Bengals defense was playing, as good as they were playing Cooper Kupp, as much pressure as they were getting on Stafford, for them to have that type of drive in that key situation, I think speaks to this team and why they put this team together, because it's for situations like this. Because I don't think, I don't think there are many wide receiver quarterback duos that can drive have a game-winning drive the way that Cooper Kupp and Stafford did in that drive.
Yeah, I thought the Bengals defense looked a little tired on that one, that last series as well. I mentioned earlier the Bengals drive chart in that second half after getting, that big play and then getting that interception. It was basically 3 and out every time, negative yardage, 3 or 4 yardage. So I thought maybe it was one too many times for that Bengals defense to be on the field. They looked at maybe a half tick slower than they had been, sort of pressuring Stafford, the defensive backs staying with Cooper Kupp, but just a hell of a drive to get that touchdown. But like you said, there was still plenty of time left. I think about a minute 35. Now, I thought they were going to start dicking around and having Matthew Stafford try to sneak the ball in 3 straight times. And that's when I didn't want to send you a text, because I'm like, if they go for QB Matthew Stafford sneaks and don't get in the end zone, I think Achilles will be so gutted he might not ever leave his house again.
Listen, for a second there, I when they got into the red zone, I really thought that they were going to try and run Akers in there.
Yeah.
And I was kind of hoping for it, in a way I was hoping for it, because had Akers got in there, I would have hit one of my big bets, one of my long shots, which would have been really nice. But listen, man, you get Cooper Kupp out there, score the go-ahead touchdown in the Super Bowl. I mean, can you really complain?
Yeah. I thought they were going to do the, tricky thing where they try to run it each time and milk the clock down and make the Bengals use all their timeouts. And I'm like, I've seen this team in 3rd and short way too long. I was like, just get that ball in the end zone, get the lead, and trust your defense, to shut down Joe Burrow. Bengals.
Honestly, sorry to cut you off, but I think that decision really came. If you look at the formation, they gave Cooper Kupp just a little too much space. There's too much of a gap between him and the corner, and I think that's when they decided, you know what, we're going for this one.
Yeah, well, I think the Bengals thought the same team too. They were like, they're going to try to milk this clock down and give us enough time, but they went there, got a good touchdown. Bengals get the ball back here. Hit, 1 or 2 plays right off the bat, get to about the 50-yard line. This is where it got interesting, 2 plays, get to about 3rd and I think it was 2, maybe 3. And this is where I sort of questioned Zach Taylor. You saw Sean McVay on the other side. He's like, we're dying with Cooper Kupp. And basically on 3rd and 2, Zach Taylor calls a delayed draw right up to Aaron Donald with not even Joe Mixon, Simji P. Ryan. Who at that point, that was his 2nd carry of the game. He's not even really that type of back. And I think you put yourself in a terrible situation there. Also, because you're going for it on 4th, at that point, after you've just run on 3rd down, basically you aren't going to run it again. So the Rams, I think, had 10 defensive linemen lined over the right tackle at that point. And, of course, they roll right out into the right tackle, fourth down. Burrow goes down instantly. I just, you saw it on the other side. If you're going to run some sort of tricky delayed running play, how about hand the ball to Jamar Chase or T. Higgins? Why is this Simji Pirine deciding your fate in this game? Not only this game, but a Super Bowl.
Or, listen, I kind of understand the way it played out. They were trying to hurry up. They had pretty good momentum going from the previous, couple of plays. So they were trying to kind of run that hurry up. Because I believe there was a play when they got a first down or second and short at that point, and they got tackled in bounds and the clock was running, so they were trying to rush to the line. But as you mentioned it, you have Jamar Chase, who's been your go-to guy. He's been your workhorse pretty much all year long. You have T. Higgins, who's basically been your entire offense for the Super Bowl game. You have Joe Mixon, who was having a pretty good game up to that point as far as rushing the ball and catching the ball. So but they were running the hurry up, so they get Pirine out there, and the first third and short run that he did, where Aaron Donald was being blocked, and he got off just enough to be able to get one arm around him, and then he grabbed that second one, and it was almost like watching a guy strapped to a train. He's got some slack in his rope, so he's running, and he looks like he's going to get there, and then he reaches the end of his slack, and he just kind of completely stops. Yeah. There was no moving at that point. So it brings up fourth and short, and Aaron Donald knew at that moment that, this is my moment. This is where I end this game.
Yeah, and basically a nothing play that had no chance. I mean, he was basically down. Like I said, they overloaded that one side, and then, of course, they rolled right into it, and it was basically just over. Rams win the Super Bowl 23-20. So Rams get the win. Bengals get the cover. Under hits in this one, and Achilles Reign gets to celebrate a Super Bowl here.
Oh, yeah, baby. It was, listen, like I said, it was a long year. I think a lot of people obviously, you hear all the talk of, the super team. But in reality, we see different organizations, different teams, different sports. They try to do a similar type of situation, and it doesn't always work out. Getting to the Super Bowl is hard enough on its own. So congratulations to the Cincinnati Bengals. They put up a really good year. During the regular season, they had an amazing playoff run. They were definitely deserving of being in that Super Bowl, and they showed it by how tough they played.
Yeah, definitely so. And now apparently everybody's going to retire. So I enjoy it because I don't think you have a draft pick for the next 8 years. But
listen,
I'm not sure they're going to retire. I think everybody's fishing for a large pay raise. But nonetheless, great win by the Rams in this one.
Yeah, and listen, now, we started the offseason game. Now it's a situation for the Rams where they got to try and figure out, how do we try to re-up this season? How do we try to make this happen again? Which is going to be really hard, obviously. And the Cincinnati Bengals is, what do we have to fix? Which is a pretty obvious situation here is you got to protect that young quarterback because you've got a lot of talent there. And definitely shows promise of being a potential contender for the playoffs year in and year out.
Yeah, definitely so. All right, so that's our Super Bowl recap. You mentioned the offseason. Last two NFL coaching hires went down. You'll be stunned. I didn't like either one. I think I've liked one coaching hire so far. Let's start off with the Texans. They hired Lovie Smith. I have no clue why. He just got finished ruining the Illinois Fighting Illini football program. In-house hire. He had some success with the Chicago Bears. He got them to a Super Bowl. But I'd go with uneventful hire in Lovie Smith, but what'd you make of the Lovie Smith hire? Also, why would you fire your coach after 1 year if you're just going to hire Lovie Smith? Is there really that much of a gap there?
Yeah, listen, I don't understand that hiring. I mean, listen, honestly, I understand it, and I think you understand it. We all know why this hire happened. We won't get into that, but as far as going with Lovie Smith, I didn't even recognize him. I didn't even know it was Lovie Smith till he started talking. He's got the big gray beard now, and it was hard to really figure out who he was. But I don't understand it. good luck to them. I hope that he can get the best out of this team the way that people anticipate a couple years ago with that Chicago Bear team. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. We got a long off season, so there's definitely going to be time to really get into all these new coaches and how we expect that they're going to do.
Yeah, and then we move to the Saints, who somehow hired an even less successful coach. Dennis Allen, their defensive coordinator, gets hired. I don't know if anybody remembers his Raiders tenure, but it was terrible. So what do you, I mean, I understand this one. The Saints, a routinely cheap franchise who's probably been footing a bill for Sean Payton that is above what they've wanted to pay for, ever. Now basically just hires the defensive coordinator who was a complete and utter disaster as a head coach. But I'm sure they got him on the cheap. But once again, somehow less inspiring than the Lovie Smith hire here for New Orleans. We won't get into it, but I think this franchise probably is going to go back to its ways before the Breeze-Payton combo came there.
Listen, for one of my buddies who's a huge Saints fan, I hope that's not the case, but it's definitely starting to smell like a dumpster fire and almost like feeling like a rebuild situation in New Orleans. But they still got some talented players over there, so we got to see what happens during this offseason before we start, calling these guys out. We'll see what happens. Not the best hire in my opinion, but we'll see.
Yeah. All right, that's our show. That's our show for the season. We'll be back probably in it's February, probably towards the end of March to start doing our NFL draft preview and such, and then we'll probably start to get our win totals over and under in and around training camp time. But that's it for this NFL season. Achilles, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at TDAchilles. And now I'm going to go watch me a parade.
All right, go watch the parade. That's our show, and we're out.